So everybody, the topic of this presentation today is the effects of the Great Depression in rural America through the lens of artists, the case of Dorothea Langue. First of all, we are going to give you some data of the historical context. In 1929, the New York Great Stock Market crash showed the basic weaknesses of American economy and resulted in the Great Depression. In that critical context, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected president in 1932, and he took office on March 4, 1933. The important thing is that he initiated a program called the New Deal to take the country out of the Depression. If we want to focus on the rural areas, we have to say that the situation in rural areas was terrible. In the mid-1930s, the Midwest was devastated by the Dust Bowl. Many farmers lost their land. They headed to California to work as seasonal workers, and government agencies investigated the living conditions of those families. The Roosevelt administration launched a program of New Deal support to artists through different agencies. For example, the section of Fine Arts in the Treasury Department and the Federal Art Project in the Works Progress Administration. Artists were also hired by agencies such as the Resettlement Administration, later renamed the Farm Security Administration. The Resettlement Administration was an agency created in 1935 and was in charge of managing land use and measures to alleviate the effects of the Great Depression, granting loans to farmers, etc. It was replaced by the Farm Security Administration in 1936. The history section was directed by Roy Stryker, and the main function was really propaganda. The Roosevelt administration supported artists to sustain American spirit. Artists were hired to document rural poverty. These artists produced powerful images for the American government, and as I said before, the main purpose was propaganda. The volume was really high. There were more than 1,400 images a month in magazines and press. As I said, this important agency that we mentioned before, the Farm Security Administration, was directed by Roy Stryker and ceased in 1933. We have to think that photography was considered the most universal means, and it was really important. So, because the artists reflected the appalling conditions of life and work in American farms and helped American people to understand the magnitude of the economic crisis. Apart from that, urban American citizens would understand and support the need of paying taxes and would also support reforms. So those were the main objectives. Roy Stryker, as we said before, that was the director of this history section, hired a group of photographers. Among those we can mention Lange, Walker Evans, etc. Stryker looked for photographs which had a purpose of propaganda. There were different approaches. Some had some kind of political and social commitment, as we can see in Dorothea Langue, and others stood away from any political commitment. We are going to put as an example Dorothea Lange's photographs. We will move on to her work. She was a social realist artist. Dorothea Langue stands out among American photographers with a documentary style. She's really well known for making photographs that were an important testimony of the Great Depression. And as a historian, as Linda Gordon states in 2009, she was really important, an important example of documentary photography. As Linda Gordon states, the concept of documentary photography has the connotation of revealing the truth and promoting social justice. And as we can see in Dorothea Lange's photographs, she described the conditions of farmers' labor exploitation And we can see that she did or carried out her work because she worked for the Resettlement Administration and the Farm Security Administration. She was a witness of the Great Depression. She toured the country working for those agencies that we mentioned before to document the situation, the terrible situation in which farmers and sharecroppers lived. Her photos showed displaced families and immigrants, and she transmitted a human and dignified image of the subjects. I want to mention the fact that she also collaborated with her second husband, Paul S. Taylor, to write an important book. The book was called American Exodus, a record of human erosions. And the book describes the desperate situations of thousands of immigrants that went to California each month. Around 6,000 Midwestern immigrants went to California, as we mentioned before. She is really well known because of important photographs, and the best known photographs that we can mention were Migrant Mother, that she painted, she made that photograph in February 1966. Another important photograph was 80-year-old grandmother, also Arkansas grandmother, and Federal Security Administration rehabilitation clients in 1939. You are advised to search for those important photographs on the internet. Now, I'll move on to talk about Migrant Mother very briefly. Migrant Mother has become an icon of the Great Depression. You are advised to search for it on the internet. The woman pictured was Florence Owens Thompson, and Dorothea Langue made that picture, that photograph in 1936. In 1960, Lange spoke about her. She says, "I saw and I approached the hungry and desperate mother as if drawn by a magnet. I do not remember how I explained my presence or my camera to her, but I do remember she asked me no questions. I made 5 exposures, working closer and closer from the same direction. I didn't ask her name or her history. She told me her age, that she was 32. She said that they had been living on frozen vegetables from the surrounding fields and birds that the children killed. She had just sold the tires from her car to buy food. There she sat in that lean-to tent with her children huddled around her. She seemed to know that my pictures might help her, and so she helped me." Well, if you look at the picture, you will see that it's really a powerful image. That's the reason why it has become the icon of the Great Depression. Well, thank you a lot for your attention, and we will meet again in the next video classes. Thank you.